Hello, YouTube friends. I'm Sean Stoger, and this is Crazy Native Philosophy. I have an enjoyable, I have an enjoyable one lined up for you today. It's called naming ceremony, Crazy Native Philosophy. So, by learning why I named this channel Crazy Native Philosophy, I'm hoping you get a clear and precise understanding of how this channel may best help you to live a healthier, happier, and more satisfying life. When not serving my country in the military or law enforcement, security, or other related work, I was obsessive about studying my culture, language, and traditional ways, as well as serving the 12 tribal nations of Wisconsin. I purposefully eliminate many things from my thought process and think about Native American philosophy relentlessly. I also possess an undergraduate degree in philosophy, but I don't really see that as being very helpful or critical when looking at Native American philosophy. Are you going to think about Native philosophy today too? Yes. Okay. Okay. So I chose crazy for a number of reasons, and primary amongst these is I am crazy. Wamani Omni Machiapelo. So what that means is my name is Whirlwind. And I get that name because I have a whirlwind spinning around inside my brain. Crazy means something different in Lakota culture compared to mainstream culture. Like, for example, Tushunke Witgo means crazy horse, but that doesn't mean like locked up in a padded room horse. That means, I guess for today, we'll call it thinks differently horse. So I'm not trying to compare myself to this guy at all, but it just goes to show that historically we thought of crazy as something very different than we do today. So I had one of my two primary teachers was named Robert Lujan, and he was, when I first met him, I was told that he was a Wendigo. And later I found out what that meant was, in Lakota culture, that means he is a Heoka. And a Heoka, it's really kind of hard to translate what that means into English. And I'll get into that in future videos also. But I guess some quick definitions or ways to translate that is, he was a thunder dreamer or a contrary person, or sometimes they're called a sacred clown. Now, I'm not talking about these Heoka empaths that are very stylish among the new age kind of community today. I'm definitely not talking about one of them. And also there's like this Heoka fad that's really popular in Indian country right now. It's like everybody and their brother's got to be a Heoka. Well, Robert didn't put on a show or try to be like some people are claiming to be Heokas. He just simply was that way. He was a Heoka or a Wendigo. So I was his firekeeper for his sweat lodge for 7 years, and for the sweat lodges we ran at Mauston Correctional. And he had some crazy teachings. Some of them were very funny, and some were just straight up shocking. But I'll say some of that craziness probably rubbed off on me quite a bit. I was also, throughout the course of my life, I've been given teachings from both Sundance traditions and Ojibwe traditions. And there are people out there in Indian country who say these two ways don't mix. But I disagree. I think they're both incredibly beautiful in their own way, and to me they mix just fine. So I don't claim to know either one very well, and maybe I know just enough to get into trouble. But maybe the fact that I can blend these two together makes me crazy also. In the Army I got called crazy many times, and that's because more or less I did a lot of stupid stuff. So I was a young dumbass, and now I'm just an old dumbass. So there was also this time where my primary mentor named Rick Cliff when he was really helping me and mentoring me. At one point, I literally thought I was going crazy, and I mean, locked up in a padded room, crazy. And so, I told him, I'll tell this story in detail later. Um, but I literally told him, I said, I think I'm going crazy, and and he told me to go crazy. He said that going crazy is part of life, and why not you? So um, now I understand why I went through all that, why I felt like I was going crazy, and I understand why he told me to go crazy. And I will say, Rick, if you're watching now, I would say I took your advice and now I'm batshit crazy. So Wopila Tonka for that. I definitely don't think like I definitely don't think like most American people, and I don't think like most Native people either. So when the herd is going that way, Sean is probably going that way, right? And I don't, I'm not trying to do that, and I don't want to do that, and I'm not trying to be a contrary person. It's just my brain just naturally works that way. So I blame Robert and Rick for making me this way. No, it's my brain is just got that whirlwind inside it. So I chose the term native to be relative to the next generation. So today, most, if you're under 40 or 35 years old, you use the term Native American or Indigenous. But when I was growing up, everyone used the term American Indian. So, it's so now, I try to use Native as much as possible because that's more relevant and accepted. As I say continuously, my purpose for this channel is that next generation. So by using a generalized term, I'm not implying some earth-based hippie new age BS. I truly love those guys, but this is not that, right? So there are no crystals here or energies, chakra, Jedi woogie boogie, psychic Batman voodoo stuff going on here, right? This is not some pan-Indian buffet where, I grab a bunch of little things from tribes and mash it all together. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to incorporate a bunch of other traditions from outside, like Buddhism or Christianity or Western philosophy. I think very heavily about concepts in Lakota culture and concepts that are shared by all natives across Turtle Island or the continental United States. So I did grow up surrounded by woodlands culture here in Wisconsin, but I never adopted their ways or traditions as my own. I did my best to learn my ancestral ways and be an ally to them on their soil. But they definitely had an influence on me. So even though, I am Lakota and I live my life as best I can in that fashion, and that's where my strongest teachings come from. I am influenced by other tribal nations, and especially Ojibwe, right? As I said earlier. So my experience is more of a hybrid in a sense, and I thought that Native fit that best. So I thought to honor all those teachings, by using the word Native in the title, that would be fitting. Now, recently I reheard this story about a warrior called Knife Chief, who was Lakota, and he was wounded at the time of Little Bighorn. Now, he was saved by a medicine man who they presumed was Cree. They at the time, these two other Lakota men came with this medicine man after Knife Chief had been shot through the side, and they couldn't speak with this guy, but at the time, everyone on the plains spoke sign language, a shared sign language. So they could communicate with this guy through sign language. So he was able to, I'll say, mysteriously heal Knife Chief in that very moment, right? And otherwise he would have died. So In every native, I'm really cutting this story down really short, but in every native story, there's tons of takeaways. But from that knife chief story, when I reheard that recently, it made me think that tribes really influenced each other a lot, and people really moved around a lot. So it's not kind of like these maps that were always shown today. Like this tribe is here and this tribe is here and this is where they were. People really moved around a lot, and so I'd say that hybrid experience that I'm talking about in my own life is nothing new. That we all influenced each other. And so this goes to the idea that tradition is not stagnant. It's a living, constantly changing, adapting, and moving thing. So I'll discuss this all in detail in future videos. And, maybe some other people disagree with me out there, and that's totally fine. Make your own video that says Sean is a total dumbass. And, after a few of these videos, you'll have enough information that you could probably make a whole channel that, Sean is a dumbass channel. So I definitely don't represent all natives. I don't represent any tribal nation at all. And, like I said, I have that crazy whirlwind brain going on, so I can only speak for myself. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm not the most native who ever natived. I'm not claiming to be traditional, and I'm not claiming to be anything. But I do think about Lakota and native stuff a lot, and not much else. I don't watch the news, or I definitely don't keep up on politics or sports or celebrity gossip or Hollywood blockbuster trash, or I stay out of drama. I've only been to church 4 times in my entire life, not counting weddings and funerals. I've never read the Bible, and to many people, I am surprisingly ignorant on Christianity. So I purposely avoid a lot of mainstream stuff, and I purposely socially isolate. So I have a very fierce mental diet. So my mind is pretty empty, So if you see me in public and I have a very vacant expression, I'm not acting. I do love to think deeply about native philosophy. So as an example, my first video I talked about Wallace Black Elk a little bit, and when I went to his house in Denver, he gave me a mental puzzle, and that was like 1998. So I thought about that puzzle for 27 years, and finally a couple months ago I finally solved that puzzle. And the answer was, it is the first piece in a much, much, much bigger puzzle. So now I'm thinking about that. So I just figure one day my brain's just going to blow up. Now, philosophy was kind of like a fallback term for me. I do have a bachelor's degree in philosophy, but in 2 videos from now, you will see that I will point out many flaws in philosophy, in Western academic philosophy. And I don't see it as necessary for looking at native philosophy in a native way. I would like to call this, crazy native life. But if I did that, people would think I'm making videos about cooking dinner or vacuuming up dog hair. Philosophy really is the deep contemplation of life, culture, humanity, and the great mysteries of the cosmos. Philosophy comes from the original Greek word philosophia, which means love of wisdom. In an Indian country, we know that we often call our elders wisdom keepers. So I absolutely love listening to my elders and love hearing their wisdom. So I would say I'm a philosopher in the truest and original sense. Personally, I don't believe in attempting to fit native thought into a Western academic philosophical paradigm. Right? I don't think that can be done, and I don't think it should be done. So throughout this channel, like I said, I will discuss native philosophy in a native way, not in a Western academic philosophical way. So as an example, right now in our culture, a lot of times you hear people say, are you religious or are you spiritual? Right? So to me, that's like saying, well, which side are you on? Are you on my side or are you on their side? Well, to me, both terms are colonizer concepts that were imposed upon native people, and neither one of those fit. Native language, most native languages don't have words for spirituality or religion. So in Lakota, we don't have any words for those. The closest word we have, I would say, would be wichoni, which is life. But like I said, I can't use life because of the whole vacuuming up dog hair thing. So for this channel, the closest I thought I could come would be to use the word philosophy. So in academic philosophy, if we talk about religion and spirituality, this gets put into a subcategory called metaphysics. Now, metaphysics is philosophical jargon. It has no meaning to anyone else except for academic philosophers. So I will get into this in 2 videos down the road. But if I were going to talk about an inipi or a sweat lodge ceremony, I'm not going to try to make those concepts fit into Western metaphysics, nor am I going to try to talk about it in a religious or a spiritual way, right? I'm just going to talk about sweat lodges as sweat lodges. And as long as they meet 7 criteria, which is foreshadowing, I will be doing native philosophy in a native way. But I will be doing it like Sean, so it'll be in a crazy native way. So the hardcore Western philosopher might be out there, he might be saying, well, he's not doing philosophy. So I will address that in 2 videos from now also. I would like to stop and applaud the natives who are in academic philosophy right now, and I wish you the best of luck because I believe you have one hell of an uphill battle. By doing native philosophy in a native way, I think the result is something I call mental sovereignty, which is the liberation of thought patterns ingrained generationally since colonization. Native philosophy in the native way means exploring historic ways of thinking in concepts and then pulling meaning and extrapolating lessons to live a healthier, balanced, and more fulfilling life, and especially to help the next generation face those challenges of tomorrow. Crazy native philosophy will also hopefully help the next generation reconnect with a reality that was created by the Great Mystery, and not this plastic reality that was created by the polluted minds of men. That is mental sovereignty. Or, as some natives say, decolonizing your mind. It is reclaiming our own tribal thought process. Now, all people on this planet were at one time, or are right now, tribal people. Some are today, and some were many generations ago. But all people come from tribes. So crazy native philosophy is your birthright. And one look at Unchimaka, or Grandmother Earth, and I think we need more tribal thinkers if our human species is to survive. I hope this sparks some curiosity. In the next 3 videos, we will look at how native philosophy doesn't fit within modern academic philosophy. And of course, we will look at this in a crazy native way. Aho matakiase.